Okay, concept number 8 is all about parallel and perpendicular lines. So we have two objectives for this one. I can, number 1, identify parallel and perpendicular lines. And perpendicular lines. And then the second objective is I can write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so those are our objectives for this lesson today. Is I can identify parallel and perpendicular lines, and I can write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so let's start with parallel lines. Parallel, there is a symbol for parallel lines, and it looks like this, just two lines right next to each other. That means parallel, okay? And the definition of parallel lines are lines that never intersect, ever. They never intersect. They just bypass each other, saying hi, okay? Algebraically, how do we know if two lines are parallel? They have the same slope. So it's pretty easy to tell if two lines are parallel or not. If they have the same slope, then they are parallel. Okay? So here's a couple examples of two lines that are parallel. I want you to write this down. Y equals 2x plus 1 and y equals 2x plus 7. Okay? These two lines have the same slope, therefore they are parallel. It's okay that they have different y-intercepts because that's really important. Because if they didn't, if they had the same y-intercept, they would be the same line and they wouldn't be parallel, they would just be the same line. So you need to have the same slope but different y-intercepts. Okay? Now, perpendicular lines, the symbol for perpendicular is like an upside down capital T. That means perpendicular. Okay? And the definition for perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at a 90-degree angle. Lines that intercept at a right angle. Right angle is a 90-degree angle. Okay? Algebraically, how do we know if two lines are perpendicular? They have negative or opposite reciprocal slopes. This one takes a little bit of work to notice if they have negative or opposite reciprocal slopes. So here's a couple examples that I want you to write down again of two lines that have opposite reciprocal slopes. So here's one, y equals 2x plus 1. Now the opposite reciprocal of 2 would be negative 2, and then the reciprocal of 2 would be 1/2. So the perpendicular line to this guy would have a slope of negative 1/2. Okay? So this is positive 2, negative 1/2. We make it negative and then we flip it over. So that's how you make a reciprocal. All right? So what are negative reciprocals? Well, a fraction flipped and sign switched. So if it was positive, it is now negative, and if it was a whole number, it is now a fraction. Okay, I think we know what reciprocals are, at least I hope so. Okay, so we're going to do some examples of practicing flipping and negating. Okay, so let's flip 3 over 4. If we were to flip that over, that would turn into 4 over 3. And since this was positive, we're going to make it negative. Now if these were slopes, these would be perpendicular lines because they are opposite, meaning they have different signs, and reciprocals, meaning they're flipped over. Okay? 2, if I want to make 2 into a fraction, I put 1 underneath it. I flip it over, and I get 1/2. Since this was positive, this one is now negative. Okay? All right? 7 over 8, I want to flip that over to make it 8 over 7. And since this one is negative, this one is positive. I don't put a negative or a positive sign in front of it. It's just the way it is. Okay? 1, if I want to make 1 a fraction, put 1 underneath it. 1 over 1, well, if I were to flip that over, I would still have 1 over 1, so 1. This one is positive, so this one has to be negative. So 1 and negative 1 are perpendicular slopes. Okay? And finally, 0, I can't, so the reason, so 0 slope looks like this. It's a horizontal line, okay? Vertical lines and horizontal lines are always perpendicular. And what's the slope of a perpendicular, or a vertical line? It's undefined. So 0 and undefined slopes are perpendicular, okay? Because I can't flip this over and divide by 0. It doesn't work, okay? So in the next video, we're going to start writing equations of determining if two lines are parallel or perpendicular given points, okay?